Hi, and welcome to Open Chest with me, GIRN, where I have intimate and provocative conversations with some of today's most prolific pop culture icons, rebels with a cause, and everyday people like you and me. Travel with me to the City of Angels and take your front row seat for intelligent, provocative, relevant insights into the minds of innovators in fashion and beauty, film and television, music and media, and so much more. Are you ready? Rukus Avenue's Sammy Chand. What an absolute pleasure to have you here. By the way, Chand is moon, as we know.
It is.
And I see this gleaming, beautiful moon head of yours, this beautiful smile of yours. Oh. And I know so much about your journey because I'm going to embarrass you now. Shall I embarrass? I'm going to embarrass you.
Please.
Yeah. You and I go back to way in the dark ages
do.
when we started
the
South Asian Revolution. You remember?
I know, I do remember this. And it was a very lonely place, and it was just you and I and some other folks, and that was it. But look at what we've done, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, look what you've done as well. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Well, you know what it is? I think that when Indians, and South Asians, get over themselves and realize that literally they can't make a revolution happen by themselves.
Oh, no.
And you've got to find like-minded people.
You do.
Within a multitude of different kind of, genres and diasporas of work and art form and all the fabulous things that our community never gets credit for because they're too busy trying to be the one.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I think it was our kind of generation, the Gen X kind of, revolution that started to see that, hang on a minute, do I even want to be the only one? That once I get there, what am I going to do by myself?
It's true.
Right?
And I did nothing by myself, ever, really, to be honest with you. I always had a great team of people working with me, whether it was on the business side or artistically, and we've, kind of had like-minded people kind of, almost provide strength for each other. You need that, right? Because it's almost very courageous and almost borderline crazy to do what we're trying to do. And you're kind of up against these like unsurmountable odds, but, you kind of get a bunch of like-minded people to go together and you get at it.
And it's magic what we do. And I always find it's the impossible things that needs to be thought of as impossible. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, we never make them possible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so let's talk about the impossibles that you've done. Rukus Avenue obviously goes back oh my God, to the dark ages.
Yeah, it does.
Just like
20 years, actually. This year's 20 years. Can you believe that?
Oh, wow, that's wonderful.
It
so
is.
Let's talk a little bit about that journey, okay? Yeah. Just for the viewers, let's establish kind of what that was about, why you felt it was necessary to do that, and kind of how that led you to here.
Wow, my goodness.
Yeah, you got that much time?
I do.
Shall we order in?
I'll make it short. I was born and raised in London. Okay, and that's that. And seeing what Bhangra and all the stuff that was going on in England, was accomplishing in my time when I was there from 0 to 12.
Yeah.
And I moved out here in the late mid-80s. So, I used to go see...
You took like the Alaps and Apna Sangeet.
Man, I would see those guys every weekend at weddings and stuff.
Yeah.
I would see Apna Sangeet on Friday, Hero on Saturday at some wedding and something there in England.
Absolutely.
Right? But I start to see kind of like this emergence of an industry around it, And there were some great mentors of mine that I later established with in England that kind of taught me how they did it. People like Amarjit Sidhu and some folks like that, some producers that were really kind of very kind to me and kind of shared secrets about how they kind of established the England scene. Mm-hmm. And so as I got older, I kind of always remembered that there was this thing going on in England that perhaps could be mirrored here in some sort of way with the culture that North America has, which is distinct in England. It's really different. It's got different kind of things influencing it and everything else, socially, politically, whatever. So
absolutely,
that gave me courage that hey, you know what, Sammy, you can go out there and try something like this in the US because sure, there's nobody like you out there, but it might kind of start something like what's happening here. So anyway, fast forward into my early 20s, and I really was able to kind of find a bunch of like-minded people, artist-wise, that were able to kind of jump on like this idea that I had for Rukus Avenue and go out there and try these different things musically. And a bunch of trial and error and a bunch of successes and failures later, here we are.
Absolutely. It's really interesting because, you've participated in music that has been on over 50 television shows, everything from Oprah to So You Think You Can Dance and everything in between. How does that feel? You know, like, you know, because I'm hearing from your journey that, you know, it was about kind of like the brown thing. It was the brown scene, and you wanted to kind of establish it here in North America, similar to what was happening in England. But you kind of morphed that into truly going more into the massive, you know, mainstream arena. Where did that happen in the journey for you, and why?
You know, Raj, this music industry has been very difficult to us, you know, and it has changed dramatically in this time when I've had this label. You know, when we started, I consider myself one of those like old school record industry kind of guys, you know, like, you know, we were raised in this kind of thing where you made this product and you got distribution and you kind of got it out there and you pounded the pavement until people bought it, right?
Yes.
Which is kind of like the traditional way. But all of a sudden in like the mid-2000s, things really dramatically changed. And it went from this record industry of going out there and touring and this and that to really becoming a little bit more about licensing, publishing. How do you handle your music rights? How do you place your music out there in ways people can hear them? And that's kind of where that shift happened for me. I was really, really involved with, you know, groups like Pharmacy and so many different artists. And right around the mid-2000s, I was like, you know what, I'm going to kind of try something different. And we really started to focus a lot on television and film. And, you know, we've had like this long history of film going back to like things like American Desi and films like that in our diaspora,
remember
right?
those, eh?
Yeah, I know. And
iconic movies.
yeah, long story short, it's really come a long way. And the music industry, when it changed, it forced us to really kind of change what we were trying to do out there. And that's when that really happened for us.
Absolutely. And how has that been? I mean, you know, commercially, has it been commercially viable for you? You know, do you live off of it? You know, what has the economic business side of it been as well?
Yeah.
Right? Because it's like a whole other ball game from
It is.
kind of the passion project of, you know, our music.
Sure.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yes. You know, there is enough of an opportunity in music now if you are really focused on building a specific engine, right? So if you're kind of really focused in on kind of like the film and television thing, then there are ways to participate in this business where you're kind of, you know, working with that business and working with this industry. So some of the things that I do is I do a lot of work with APM Music here in LA, and they put out my music and I get a lot of licensing through that. And there are a lot of different things that are set up for you as musicians to kind of help facilitate these type of deals and everything. So, you know, after you build a little bit of a reputation of kind of, you know, going out there and people get to know you a little bit, you know, they're willing to take some chances. And so I was able to kind of build some relationships and kind of go with them. So,
My gosh, I love it. Yeah, before we talk about Sold,
Yeah.
which I'm really excited about speaking to you about, and your participation in that,
Yeah.
and just the fact that it supports, you know, your goals and, you know, your initiatives with human trafficking.
Yeah.
I want to ask you, looking back before you got to where you are today, what would you say has been probably the most valuable lesson that you've learned in the music business?
You just have to be tenacious. You just cannot stop. You cannot rest on anything. You have to keep moving. You have to keep creating. You know, there's some great things that I've learned from people like even Jerry Seinfeld, who has this rule of never breaking the link. You know, every day do something creative towards your craft. And you know, he started by circling this, you know, little round thing on his calendar, and noticed later that he had like a bunch of circles in a row, and he said, you know what, I can't break that link. Every day I write, I'm going to write a circle on that calendar and keep going, never break the link. So musically, you got to never break the link. And then nowadays, you really have to participate in just being an entrepreneur as well.
Absolutely.
And balancing those two things.
You know, it's great that you say that you're referencing that, because I feel that's been one of the big, I mean, the second largest change in the music industry, you know, from my perspective, other than technology, which completely changed the game for everybody, is understanding, you know, brand building, is understanding, you know, building your portfolio and knowing what your point of difference is. Why are you special? What is your brand? You know, and how can you monetize it? How can you get out there and you know, be able to pay your bills? You know, a lot of people, you know, started when we did, and aren't really making a living off of this. You know, because, and I feel that from your journey, and why I feel that you've been so successful, you know, in kind of staying with the music, is because you keep seeing where the wave needs to change. Right? And you keep developing and morphing, you know, just kind of what music needs to mean for you. as an artist, as a creator, and as a business person. Am I right when I say that?
Well, yes, absolutely. And I agree with you, most importantly because I want everybody else to really know that that's where the secret lies. You have to be able to manage both of those things, especially now.
Yes.
The business has changed from, going back to when we started Rukus Avenue, it used to be the day where I'd get demos or, whatever it was in the mail, and my job was to listen to it and then kind of judge whether I want to engage business with this artist and kind of if they were, really talented enough to kind of pull off both the business and the creative side of things. And it was a lot of those things you have to kind of judge and kind of really work with. And nowadays it's a real necessity. It's not just a matter of, hey, let me get some music out there and see what happens. You have to really go out there and push it. One of the things that really helped me create this label was, really exactly what you said. I was working in hip hop. It was very difficult for me to get production jobs like I wanted to. And I would only get used for very specific things like, drum programming or whatever it might be, or, hey, let's call up the Punjabi guy to come in and add a little Indian touch to our stuff.
Of course.
And after years of that type of stuff, you start to realize, hey, you know what? In order for me to really break through and have my own identity, I have to do it with what I do best. And that's really where it started for me. So,
and what is that?
And that is really it's really who I am. I was born in London. I live in LA. I was raised on hip hop. I listen to Punjabi, Qawwali, Bollywood, whatever at home as well with my hip hop and American music. It's a mix of all that.
Yeah.
So it's really based around, hip hop with Indian percussion and built of other sounds around that. And
is that so, because you've worked with a lot of people that are in those different genres, like Rahat Fateh Ali Khan and Wu-Tang, and just like a bunch of different artists. Was that kind of strategic for you, or was it an organic kind of?
Very
you
organic.
fell into it.
It just kind of like followed through where my passions were in different styles of music.
Yeah.
I was really into Qawwali music, and I morphed into kind of knowing folks around the whole Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan camp, and got to work with Rahat Fateh Ali Khan, and it was actually some of the last recordings I have are of Rahat's father Farooq playing harmonium. Those are some of the last recordings of him. And
how incredible.
But it was quite a story there, and we're working on a cool project to kind of bring all this stuff out, so you'll get to hear more about it.
Can't wait.
Yes, thank you.
When is that happening?
Well, the first of it will be released on my own album coming out later this fall.
Oh, can't wait.
I know, it's got a lot of fun artists on there. I'm really excited about getting the word out there.
Hi everyone, this is Open Chess TV with me, Raj GIRN. If you like the chat that you just finished watching, I really hope that you will subscribe to my channel for more intelligent, provocative, relevant conversations with some of your favorite celebrities.